Hey, this is Max with Priority. We've been doing a little series on making the 600 HXT my perfect bikepacking bike. Today we're going to talk about my second overnighter on the bike, a trip to Brattleboro, Vermont. So for my last overnighter, we did a route that I designed myself. This time we used the awesome resource of bikepacking.com. What Joe Cruz and the whole team at bikepacking.com do is incredible. They have gear reviews, they have tons of routes that are vetted with great explanations to them, and I really appreciate having that resource out there. We strongly recommend checking them out. If you're new to bikepacking, if you've been bikepacking for a long time and need new ideas, it's a great place to go. They even did a review on the Priority 600 HXT as a bikepacking bike. So when considering a route for bikepacking, it's a different experience to use a preset route like one of these from bikepacking.com versus designing one yourself. Designing a route yourself is really rewarding, but there's an element of unknown to it. Of course, that adds to the adventure in a really awesome way, but on the times it doesn't work out, you can get really hung up. So you want to be ready for that extra adventure, shall we call it. But with a bikepacking.com route or a pre-ridden or made route, you have a much greater chance that the route is just going to go smoothly. A lot of people have tried it. So in this case, I had a limited amount of time. It was sort of a last-minute decision to be able to even go on this trip. So that's why I turned to bikepacking.com and used this Brattleboro Roundabout Loop. On the description, they say that it could be done as a 3-day or a 2-day. The 2-day is definitely a little bit more difficult, and I agree with that. It was challenging. I was really tired by the end of it, but I enjoyed it. It was almost perfect leaf peeping season. The colors were insane, and the rides and the road was just beautiful. The gravel roads in Vermont are unlike any other that I've ridden. Somehow each road is more beautiful than the last. I went up there on a weekend, and you would expect it to be super crowded. I saw hardly anybody. There's so much space. You really feel like you're out there getting connected with nature, getting connected with the roots of why we love to ride bikes. They're just fun. So one of the features of riding in Vermont is a ton of climbing. You're always going up or down at all times. So the Pinion Smart Shift performed amazing for having the widest range of gearing to help get me over every single climb, and the ease of use of just the click button shifting was something I was super grateful for. So 2 trips down, I can safely say that I'm totally in love with the 600 HXT as a bikepacking bike. Of course, Priority is known for our low maintenance bicycles, and this bike is no different. I'll be the first to admit that I knocked the bike over super hard onto a bunch of rocks, and it was totally fine. In fact, knowing that I didn't have a derailleur and a derailleur hanger that I could have bent or snapped off, my first thought was, I wonder how bad I just messed up the paint on the bike. But how settling is that to know that when you even knock your bike over, you're not going to have a trip-ending experience? On this Brattleboro trip, there were a couple points that definitely got a little bit gnarlier than I expected. Some proper double track and even some single track mountain biking and some really rocky descents. I wasn't really expecting that on this route, but knowing that I had a bike that was so capable allowed me to not only pedal through these moments rather than hiking, but also allowed me to have some fun. I used the dropper post so much more than I expected to, and I really sent it down some of these descents. I'll be the first to admit that I don't have the greatest amount of experience with suspension forks, but that said, this bike's fork performed amazing. I really did ride through a lot of rough terrain, and not only did the fork add a lot of comfort on the ride, it added a ton of confidence. Again, the theme you'll notice here is that this bike just made the moments that would have been sketchy fun. Coupling this long hardtail geometry with the awesome Fox fork and the really powerful brakes just inspired confidence throughout. My underpinning note for using this bike as a bikepacking bike is that it is ready for anything. It is ready to go down any road. When you take that turn onto a fire road that hasn't been well maintained, where in the past on my gravel bike, I would have been like, okay, time to get off and walk. No, it was time to ride through all of that. It just added that element of fun and adventure. So if you've been following along on this video series, a question that's come up a lot, and I'm sure will continue to come up, is when to choose the 680X versus the 600 HXT for bikepacking. For the 680X, It's going to be a little bit more of a relaxed geometry. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. It's going to be great for all day riding and certainly getting into some adventure. The 600 HXT is a proper hardtail mountain bike. You're not going to have to say no to any road, to any terrain. It is ready for adventure anywhere. So in the previous video, we discussed some changes that I was going to make to my setup on the bike. We chopped down the handlebars a little bit, and that ended up being great. Handlebars are definitely something that you can customize both in terms of the width and even if you wanted to get into different models of handlebars, the shape. It just fit my frame a little bit better, added a lot of comfort to the bike. As we've been talking about, I've been using these Continental Race King tires. Still just as happy with them for my purpose. I'm going to keep rocking the Continental Race King tires on this bike. I also switched to a slightly smaller bag for my handlebars from Aero. And this was great. It definitely made packing up in the morning a little bit more careful, let's say. I had to put everything back in the correct place or it all wouldn't fit. But once it was all packed correctly, the riding experience was a little bit better. I found the bike to be a little bit more nimble with less weight on the handlebars. It's nice to know that I have options for how I want to pack the bike. I could see myself going back to the larger dry bag, and if I was to do a longer trip, I'd definitely use a larger dry bag. But it's great to know that I can pack the bike either way for a different experience. The Priority 600 HXT has got to be one of the most versatile bikes that we offer. It's a proper hardtail mountain bike. It's ready to rip some serious terrain. It's ready to climb up mountains. And as a bike packing bike, I found that it performs awesome. If you're looking for a bike packing bike that is ready to go on some gnarly roads and to get into some serious adventure, 600 HXT is a great option. I'll definitely be using it for all of my future trips.